Illinois is your home state?
That's right. My family's been there since 1837.
Why did you decide to stay in Illinois instead of going to Arizona or Texas or Florida? Why did you stay in your home
Because
state?
8 generations of my family's blood, sweat, and tears are in that ground. We came here from Germany as farmers. We came here in 1634, 100 plus years before the Declaration of Independence was signed. I refuse to sit idly by and watch this great nation of ours burn and be destroyed. 8 generations in Illinois. That's where the fight is at. If you can take down communism there, you can take down communism anywhere.
Amen. That's the future of this country right now.
And we're going to save it. By God, we're going to free ourselves to the name of Jesus Christ. We're anointed to preach liberty to the captives and free ourselves. Who's with me? Are you going to fight for the future of America? Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, where do people go to find out more about you?
I'm Skylar Dunsing, S-K-Y-L-A-R, last name D-U-E-N-S-I-N-G. It's TUSPS.org. We're starting chapters of the United States Patriot Society all across the country, right here in the great state of Texas, too.
Let's get it up.
Let's do it. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome to Behind Enemy Lines. Boy, do we have a good show for you guys tonight. So today, sitting in for Terry, he's in the middle of a move right now. We've got Noah Herod, and we have a very, very special guest. Noah, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. Just got back from CPAC, running out about 2.5 hours of sleep. But other than that, doing great. Thanks for having me.
We also have with us Skylar Dunsing by phone. He's in the middle of traveling right now. But Skylar, how are you doing this evening?
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. Fantastic to be on, and great to recap now CPAC. Always a fantastic conference. I mean, when you're gathered with that many patriots who are like-minded, man, what a blessing.
Oh, yeah. Well, you made quite an impact there with the great Steve Bannon on War Room, with a little help from our good friend, our good friend Ben Berquam over there. Sorry, guys, I'm losing my voice over here. But you know, it was a great segment and really inspiring. And unfortunately, in Illinois, you got the short end of the stick up there. I understand you were left off the ballots in several areas in your district, and now we've got this communist leftist loser running in a seat where we could have had a patriot, Nikki Conforte, who ran off to Al Jazeera to get positive media coverage, and you know, basically just set up to lose so the Democrats can retain that seat.
Yeah, very interesting situation, isn't it? It's too bad the Illinois Republican Party didn't get behind my race more. In fact, we got no support. But, you know, the point isn't even just to cry foul. You know, now it's we have an issue with the Illinois State Board of Elections with election fraud in my race. You know, that's the thing is this is going to impact Republicans and Democrats alike, but it just, you know, so happens to be majority of the time Republicans. But in my primary, you know, you had people who were Republican voters who didn't even have a chance to vote for me or my primary opponent. So what happened, and we'll talk more about this, but it was ridiculous what happened. We have in a polling place where 12 out of the 13 hours, my name and my race wasn't even on the election day ballot. So this whole thing, we need to have a massive investigation into what happened here. And it being a federal campaign, too, we have no idea where else this would have happened across the country.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, so far, I mean, it was just Illinois that had primaries that day, but we do need to keep a close eye on other states. But yeah, the bottom line, though, is it isn't just you. There's now at least 3 additional candidates. We know Tadora Brown was left off of the ballots in DuPage County. And again, sabotage. I mean, the Republican Party is basically, in Illinois, is just a bunch of yellow-bellied, pickle-kissing, undocumented Democrats. They're not out there to fight for us. This isn't what the country needs right now, and this is part of the reason why we're seeing low turnout among Republicans in areas like this, because the party won't fight. And we're not getting the things that, you know, we voted for, which doesn't exactly help. But the fact that, you know, especially in Illinois, the party, the GOP apparatus is pushing these leftists, these undocumented Democrats, rhinos, Republicans in name only, rather than real conservatives that actually want to fight, and the people are sick and tired of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, certainly there's no motivation happening from party leadership and from the party itself as a whole. It's like, really, if you pull back and look at it, you could make the assumption that the Republican Party in the state of Illinois doesn't even want to win, right? If they did, they'd actually be out motivating people, and they'd talk about, you know, President Trump and his policies and what he's done to shape the Republican Party since 2015, right? But for whatever reason, our party in the state of Illinois refuses to talk about that and refuses to put up candidates like myself who were willing to run on that platform and be bold in doing it. And the numbers don't lie. You know, I've
Yeah.
talked about this before. President Trump lost to Hillary Clinton in the state of Illinois by about 1.6 million votes in 2016. Then in 2020, if you even want to believe the results, which you shouldn't, massive election fraud, he loses to
Yeah.
Joe Biden in the state of Illinois by about like 1.2 million or so votes, and then loses to Kamala Harris, right, 4 years later in the state of Illinois by about 600 to 650,000 votes. So that loss deficit was literally cut in half. Now, what did that? Was that the Illinois Republican Party that did that? Absolutely not. They didn't even talk about President Trump. He was able to cut his loss deficit in half in the state of Illinois without even spending a dollar here. So imagine what could happen if we had the investors and donors and contributors who wanted to get behind organizations like ours and movements like ours here in the state of Illinois, where we could actually go after these voters and motivate them and get to them. We'd be looking at making Illinois at least a swing state, if not be able to flip it red. I mean, you're not looking at a 5,000 vote margin like states like Wisconsin and other swing states, but you are looking at a 600 to 650,000 vote margin, which was cut in half. And that was Donald Trump, specifically the weaponization of the Justice Department against Donald Trump that registered with voters, that resonated with voters here in the state of Illinois because they saw the former president of the United States being ripped off and abused just like they are on a daily basis by a weaponized government.
Yep. Well, you're exactly right. And the people want fighters. We're sick and tired of laying down. I mean, that's been one of the other big problems that we had in this election cycle. And another reason for the low turnout is where the hell is the DOJ on any of this? You know, we've now had over 14 months to start prosecutions. They keep dangling things out in front of us. This is literally the fourth time they've shoveled this shit with Brennan saying, oh, he's about to be indicted. Oh, guys, there's a grand jury impaneled. Like, I'm sorry. You know, the left can go. They had in their first year over 1,400 arrests of J6 defendants. You cannot tell me in 14 months they can't get anyone. They press charges against Letitia James and Comey. They let those slip away. They just got a second criminal referral on Big Tish, on Fat Tish. But let's see the DOJ do anything with it. They had 4 months to reassign attorneys to these cases. They dropped the ball there. And then we don't even want to get started on the Epstein nonsense. They're out of compliance with that. They're still sitting on 3.2 million documents, 10,000 hours of video to release. And then we've got the FBI saying they have no evidence of any trafficking, though some other legal documents they filed in, say, the Bank of America case say otherwise. And then we got, I just blanked on his name, over at the DOJ, Pam Bondi's assistant, Todd Blanche, out there saying, oh, we can't find any crimes in these files. If anybody finds stuff, let us know. Ha, ha, ha. Well, the base is sick of that. You know, we voted for leadership. We voted for justice. And again, in a case like yours, where this happened not just to you, but to multiple candidates across Illinois, where you're left off the ballot or the wrong ballots are handed out for 13 or 12 out of 13 hours. But the state party doesn't want to fight that. But where are the feds too? I mean, this is a civil rights and a ballot access issue, especially again when it's 4 candidates. Now, one of them did manage to squeak out a victory, even though he was left off. The other 3 are now out of the race, and nobody wants to do anything about it or talk about it.
Yeah, that's the thing too, Mike, is, you know, whether or not it would have made a difference in the ultimate outcome of our race, we have no idea, but we certainly know this, it impacted our race, because you had people who were not able to vote for me or for Conforti. So, you know, the left always wants to talk about voter disenfranchisement. Well, that's voter disenfranchisement in real time. That is election fraud. So,
Yep.
it's not like anybody who's talking about election fraud here, like the mainstream media wants to make you out to be like you're some kind of a crackpot making stuff up. No, this is real-time proof, real-time evidence that we've got it on paper. We've got the original copies of the ballots. We've got, we made copies of them as well. We put out a diagram too. We shared that on Bannon's War Room. We shared it on Lindell TV when we opened up with Mike Lindell with Vanessa.
Nice.
So we're very blessed to be able to do that and get our information, our story out at CPAC, and all that web information is on our website too. With the video that we exposed this in real time on election day at about 6 o'clock at night before the polls closed at 7 o'clock. It was the 19th Ward, 11th Precinct for my 6th congressional race. when we had a voter who just so happened to be the United States Patriot Society National Field Director, so they certainly did this to the wrong person, who requested a mail-in ballot to have the ballot be spoiled on Election Day to avoid ballot stealing and running out of Election Day ballots, right, like Mike Lindell and others have talked about as the process. So the mail-in ballot to be spoiled on Election Day had my name and my race on it. It was the correct ballot style. It was the correct ballot. That's the one that should have been printed. So we spoiled that on Election Day, 12 hours into the 13 hours of total voting time. And come to find out, we're handed then an Election Day ballot that's a different ballot style. All of the other races are the same, but all of a sudden now my race and my name are no longer on that ballot. It was replaced with the 1st Congressional District. So they replaced the 6th Congressional District with the 1st Congressional District with the same voter, the same address, the same precinct, the same ward, all the same details and information. Nothing changed. So that ballot should have never gone in print and it should have never been distributed. And then he decided to raise awareness about it and said, wait a second, this is the wrong ballot. He said, it should be this ballot style. And they said, oh, we have that somewhere around here. So there's another red flag. Why were there 2 different ballot styles at the same precinct polling place? That doesn't make any sense. So he called the State Board of Elections. The State Board of Elections tried to slough it off and say, well, this is an honest mistake. Just go in there and they should fix it. When we know that's not the case, we've got the election judge handbook and the training material on that. We know that when you go into a semi-open primary state like Illinois, you come in, you give them your address, you should show them your ID, but that's not always the case. Hopefully we can change that with the Save America Act. So that's interesting timing too. So anyway, so go in and give them the information and they say, okay, you want Republican or Democrat ballot? So we said Republican ballot. And then the system on that tablet auto-populates what your ballot style is. So they they designated the wrong ballot style to be handed out at that precinct, that polling place, the 19th Ward, Precinct 11 for the 6th congressional race. So it's absurd. There's no backwalking this. This isn't anything to do with a voting machine, although we know we have issues there. Now we have an issue with the paper ballots. So hopefully what this can end up being is a landmark case where we can investigate the problems before this continues into a larger problem throughout the entire country, quite possibly going into the midterms, because this will cost very, very tight races.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of my thing too, is like the SAVE Act really isn't enough. Like my big concern is, well, one, I don't know what the problem is with these senators. We got this Lindsey Graham down there in Disneyland blowing bubbles when they should be back in D.C. passing the SAVE Act. But again, we got too many undocumented Democrats in the Senate pretending to be Republicans. Again, this is an easy issue. I mean, the SAVE Act has mass support from both sides. Even a majority of Democrats want it passed. 95% of Republicans do. I don't know what's wrong with the other 5%. I guess they've got some Dane Bramage going on, but this seems like common sense. There's barely a country on earth that doesn't have some sort of ID requirement or citizenship verification before they allow you to vote, but pretending that somehow, this is illicit or, black people can't get IDs or other racist tropes we keep hearing from the left on this. I mean, this is basic election security. They should be able to pass this. And here's my other concern, though, is this, dirty tricks. Is this what we see now? If they're not able to rig things electronically or bring the dead back to life to vote in elections, as they're notorious for in Chicago especially, but across the country, we know that tons of states have inflated voter rolls. My favorite punching bag on this is Wisconsin. They have more registered voters in Wisconsin than people that live in the state. That's an impossibility. It should be a maximum of 2/3 roughly of your state's population that's actually eligible to vote, because there's a lot of people that are under 18. There's other people that are lawful permanent residents but aren't citizens, other lawful immigrants there. And then you have all your illegals and all the other stuff. But there's other people that live in the state that aren't able to vote. But no, I want to get your thoughts on all this. Well, I guess we'll get more into CPAC in a minute, but on all the election shenanigans that went on in Illinois.
Well, it's really sad to see, because this is what a third world country you would have to worry about in. The biggest thing we should have is election integrity. That's what keeps us a free society. And just like Skylar's, Illinois is probably the beta tester to do this other places. Because Illinois is the most corrupt where all the corruption is. So if we can get away with it in Illinois, will do it everywhere else. And what Skylar is doing is Skylar is opening Pandora's box into this. And typically where there's smoke, there's fire. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. But yeah, and just getting out to vote is so important. And at CPAC, the general consensus was we're very worried about the midterms. Well, why are we worried about the midterms? We just lost a seat in Texas. We just lost a seat in Arkansas. The mayor of Boca Raton, a Republican stronghold out in Florida, a Democrat just won, and by one vote. He won by one vote, 473 to 472 votes. The mayor of Dade County in Miami, Republican stronghold, now is a Democrat. So we're seeing a lot of these Republican seats getting flipped, and so I think we should worry about the midterms. But I think voters are disenfranchised right now. I think they're a little upset that, the DOJ isn't arresting anybody or doing their job. And if they are doing their job, they're doing it too slowly. But I think the biggest thing the Republican Party needs right now is a rally cry, a war cry to actually lock some of these criminals up. And once you start seeing indictments and people start getting faith in the party again, I think you'll start to see more support and droves of people show up to the election lines.
Yeah, spot on, Noah. Spot on. I would just follow up with that and say, if the Republican Party, this should be a warning to everybody across America here, especially the Republican Party. If you guys do not get off your hands and stop playing defense as a party, from party leadership to Republicans in Congress, if you don't get off your hands and stop playing defense and start going on offense, you are going to lose in the midterms because it's complacency. The American people showed up and sent Donald Trump back to the White House November of 2024 to deliver a mandate. That's what we gave. And we need Republicans in Congress to do their part now and deliver the mandate back for us.
Well, I got another video I'm setting up here too. This is also from CPAC. So I'm not sure if you guys were there or not, but it also, the big divide right now, I think, in the party is between the younger and older voters. So this is at CPAC, and I'm just going to run this video.
How many of you would like to see impeachment hearings? No. That was the wrong answer. Let me try it again. How many of you would like to see impeachment hearings? No. Can someone bring some coffee out for the CPAC?
Well, again, the younger voters, the kind of people that are going to CPAC, they do want to see impeachments, mass impeachments. Now, this is where the confusion is. He's talking about Matt Schlapp's there talking about impeaching Trump because that's what's going to happen if we lose the House. But it's the voting base wants consequences for people. We want judges impeached. We want elected officials. I am sick and tired of hearing about Ilhan Omar marrying her brother. That was funny 6 months ago. Now she needs to be deported. I am tired of this stuff. It's put up or shut up, or people are just going to sit at home. Again, there's a lot of people that don't want to admit this is at the point we're at, but this is the issue. Trump built a broad coalition. We brought in lots of new voters. Him going on with people like Joe Rogan, Aiden Ross, and others are what made the difference. Sean Ryan. This brought a lot of new people to the ballot box, disaffected Democrats, normies in the middle, but these people also want results. Trump was always known for, doing what he said he would do, except for arresting people. That was the big error in the first term, not going after Hillary Clinton, playing nice with the rest of these, snakes in the grass that hide up there in D.C. and, actually draining the swamp. So we expect to see that now. We expect real results. That was why Trump was given a mandate. I get that there's been other accomplishments, but most younger people do not care about Venezuela, Iran, or what's going on otherwise. They want to focus here at home. They want to be able to buy homes. They want opportunity in the workplace. They want a future where we're not spending ourselves into oblivion, saddling our children and grandchildren with even more debt. But there seems to be a big disconnect on this right now. Like, what can we do to start fixing this problem?
Well, I think first off, especially to piggyback off of what you said on the young-old divide with younger and older Republicans, I think they have to embrace young candidates more, embrace young volunteers. It's Illinois, for instance, Illinois Republican Party will always continues to shoot themselves in the foot. Here they have this young guy like Skylar, who's bright, intelligent, dominant, trust me, like I said on an episode before, Skylar's not doing this because it's fun. He's doing it because he cares about this country. And he's had 8 generations of his family here. So when someone like Skylar runs, or someone my age wants to volunteer or help out in a campaign, it should be embraced. It should be celebrated. And what did they do with Skylar?
Throw the opportunity away. Oh, you might have just froze.
Too young. Oh, he doesn't have experience, and all of those things were very easily refutable. But these are people who didn't even want to give me the time of day to look into my background or the great work that I've done. I mean, just look at how effective we were at CPAC. And now we have people who want us, young people, largely a team full of young people, to come out and help flip seats and motivate voters in Utah, in Nevada, in Arizona, in New Mexico, in California, in Texas, in Florida, in Tennessee, in Massachusetts. These are all places right now where I have people blowing up my phone, asking the United States Patriot Society to come in and come motivate voters and get out the vote and actually tell voters, yeah, we're going to demand accountability. Yeah, we're going to demand for youthful energy to be embraced. We're sick and tired of the old establishment Republican Party. We're tired of the establishment Democrats. We understand and embrace now the idea that it is an establishment versus the American people. And we're not going to sit back and take it anymore and be quiet. We're sick and tired of being used and abused by a system that doesn't care about us too much, or being taxed into an oblivion. While we no longer have a voice in politics, I've met with so many families who say, you know, Scarlett, I want to have a voice. I want to do something. I don't feel like I have honest and accurate representation anymore. I feel like my politicians don't listen to me, and I don't feel like there's an organization for me. So that's where Patriot Society comes in, to build coalitions that actually speak up and fight for the American people and speak with the fire in the belly like we had at Steve Bannon's War Room. Because that's what the American people want. That place was electric when we did that, because they're sick and tired of hearing the same people get up and say, oh, well, maybe we could try. Well, let's do this. So, you know, okay, we'll sit down and have bagels. No, nobody's interested in doing anything like that anymore. We want to stand up and want to fight and actually listen to the American people.
Yeah, exactly. It's time to crush our enemies, to actually take this country back. No more playing nice. The Democrats will not play nice if they regain power. They are already making hit lists of who to arrest. And let's not forget, there's a lot of ICE agents and other people on there. I'm sure you're on that list, Skylar. You know, the other great irony I find with that second clip I played is the other guy standing next to Matt Schlapp in that video is Brandon Herrera. He's another insurgent candidate like yourself, another younger guy running for office down in Texas who also took out a entrenched rhino, Tony Gonzalez. And, you know, Brandon Herrera, aka AK Jesus, for those of you guys who watch YouTube, you know, this guy is another real fighter, and I think that's what they're afraid of. The establishment, that being people like you, people like Brandon Herrera, and some of the others that are getting in and may win these races. There's a few other people I've got an eye on that their primaries haven't happened yet, but most of them are positioned well, and they are afraid of having an insurgency. They don't want more people like Matt Gaetz and others that were in Congress that were vocal, that will call them out for their own shenanigans and actually want to fix these problems and make America better and for everyone. You know, we're sick and tired of this inaction, strongly worded letters and fundraising emails. Well, we demand results. And you know, I mean, our country really is on a precipice right now. If things don't change in this next election cycle, people are just going to check out. And that's going to allow the left to win. You know, we're now hearing J.D. Vance may not run in 2028, that he's still considering things. And I do understand that, too. I mean, who would want to be a punching bag for the entire mainstream media right now, especially when the establishment leaves us high and dry all the time? And they love running to the cameras, running to MS Now or Miss Now or whatever it is, and the New York Times, whatever, and having them kiss their ass. They care more about what they think about them than what the American people do. And this is why we're in the situation we're in. That, and, you know, the self-dealing, lining their own pockets, and all the other corruption and nonsense that goes on in the swamp in D.C. But people have had it. They're fed up.
That's right.
We expect better.
That's right. But you know what, too? You got to be willing to be bold, speak with bold and courageous faith, like our friend Charlie Kirk once did, and set so much of a great example as a mentor to anybody who listened to him. And thank God a lot of people did. And when evil took him out, all that they did was just create a million more Charlie Kirk. So it's embrace that, embrace the policies of President Trump and the godly values of Charlie Kirk, and carry that forward boldly. You got to be willing to take the arrows and be bold and speak up. You know, and start to build coalitions with more and more young people, build these organizations, get involved, start putting together slates of candidates of people who are young. Because look at it this way, you know, I'm 25 years old. The youngest you can do this ran for U.S. Congress. Why? Because I saw the older generations of the establishment failing us. And yet older, you know, people in the electorate who are older generation, and they felt like they didn't have a voice either, who then in the grassroots celebrated the fact that me as a young guy was running. I mean, I even had Democrats in Illinois who were like, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, sure. You know, you seem like a great kid. I'll tell some people about you because you know it just would be nice to see some change and have a young person do this." So that actually resonates with both sides of the aisle, is having young people, because we know this, Mike, and no, we know this, that if we don't speak up, we will lose the country. Young American patriots have to understand this. What do we want to see the direction of our nation go in? Do we want to be able to have the affordability? Do we want to have the American dream, home ownership, big families like we used to do in this great nation? It's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be the great American dream that we inherit, or a great American nightmare. So for me, as I said on Bannon's War Room, I refuse to sit idly by and watch this great nation of ours burn and be destroyed. Too many people laid down their lives and sacrificed for this country. My family's blood, sweat, and tears are in this ground. 8 generations of my family's blood in the ground in the state of Illinois, came here in 1837. And then we also came to the United States of America in 1634. I mean, wait, I have a serious stake in this, in the game here, and so do young Americans across this entire country. Because look at it, you know, if you're 25 years old, you know, you live to be like what, 85? What, that's 60 years of involvement here, and you have people who are involved in 70 years old, and they're looking at it going, well, we're getting ready to just kind of close out the show here. So to hell with whatever happens for the next 50 years. I'd rather protect a title in my own pockets, right? My own fundraising ability. When for us, it's like, no, man, I want to be able to have a family and pass freedom on for my kids and my children's children, as President Reagan said. But that's not going to happen with the current establishment.
No.
Well, and before I pass it over to you, Noah, I want to 2 things. You're definitely getting some support from my friends right now. One of our other show hosts, she happens to be watching right now, said, you know, it's a shame you're out of the race because we need more young people like you to get involved. And one of my friends that lives here in the area says, damn, I wish this guy was still on the ballot. I'd move to Illinois just to vote for him.
I appreciate that a lot.
You're exactly... I appreciate that. You're exactly right. Like, I've gone to some of these GOP meetings in Ohio when I talked about actually like getting aggressive, and like I'm in a pretty safe area. Like I'm in Warren Davidson's district. He's not going to lose his seat. He's a good guy voting. He's just not very vocal like some other people. But I'm right by like Jim Jordan in his area. I actually live right by where JD Vance grew up at. I'm about 30 miles from there. But anyway, yeah, I mean, when I went in there and started talking about getting tough and actually like sticking to the Democrats, fighting to win, I mean, these octogenarians that filled the room, I mean, I bet half of them shit their depends right then, because they're not used to this. They're not ready for a fight. And I'm sorry, we are way out of the 1980s. There might have been a time where you could work with the Democrats and get things across the finish line. They didn't hate America when it's destroyed, but that's not the party we're dealing with today. Yeah, there's probably a few Democrats that aren't so bad, and there's people like Fetterman that you could probably have a conversation with, and you know, we may even agree on some things, but that is not the Democrat Party today that we dealt with before. And it is time. I mean, honestly, like, we shouldn't even be treating these Democrats like their viewpoints are valid. They are insane, whether that's transing our kids, having open borders, or anything else that they get behind. The issues they fight for are all things that destroy America, or destroy our souls. And it's time to just admit that and treat these people like the mental patients they are. Sorry, Noah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say too, you know, just piggybacking off of why it's important to vote. Look at this ideology. You're right, Mike. They aren't the Democrats of the 1960s or the 1970s that you could reach across the aisle and, you know, do work with on stuff. There's no partisanship. The leftist ideology that is running in a lot of races and already has seats in our government is the same ideology that had Charlie Kirk murdered. These people aren't going to stop. If we lose, they are coming for our throat.
Yep.
There's no changing that. If we lose, it's going to get dangerous and it's going to get bad. We cannot afford to lose these midterms.
Noah is exactly spot on. I want to remind the viewers of this. Look at what happened for the last 4 years under Joe Biden's tyrannical regime. Ask yourself, were they playing defense like Republicans seem to love to do, or were they playing offense? They were playing unbelievable offense. They weaponized the justice system against the former president of the United States. And they weaponized it against protesting moms and dads at school board meetings. I mean, one of the largest operations in FBI history now that we've seen through a kangaroo court, through a congressional hearing, was weaponizing the justice system against J6ers. I mean, what is going on? How do Republicans in Congress, how do Republicans in party leadership not recognize that and get off of their butts get off, stop sitting on your hands, stop playing defense and start to play offense and go after these people. That's what the American people are demanding right now, but nobody's delivering it. So more and more young people like myself, like Noah and our team, we have to continue to drive this forward and sacrifice of our young years, which we're fine and happy to do. But my God, we better get some support from these other people who are older than us, because we're willing to make the sacrifice to fight for the future of the country. So my God,
and
support us, guys. We're fighting.
We're dealing with the problems that the older Republicans made for us. We have to do 2 times of what they did. So that, it just comes down, they should be thankful to have young people who want to be involved, who want to be a part of this.
That's exactly right, because the bad genie's already out of the bottle here, folks. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but this isn't going to be solved by just sitting back and just wishing it to go away. You got to learn, you got to pray, you got to move, you got to execute for this country. Otherwise, you will lose the country to international communism, to the corrupt politicians and the payoffs coming from people like George Soros and Klaus Schwab, who openly say penetrate boards and cabinets, and you will lose the country through the public and private sector. They're all about making public and private partnerships and taking the same principles from international banking and hedge fund management to play both sides of arguments while you, the American people, get screwed. So I refuse to sit idly by and watch that happen. You have to build this. And everybody who's tuning in, who's listening, who's fired up and wants to continue to see me in office, the work doesn't stop here. I was blessed. I had a lot of great people who were concerned. They said, oh my gosh, Skyler, don't give up. I'm not giving up. We're just getting started. We're going to burn this thing down and build something that's absolutely incredible, a force to be reckoned with, mainly spearheaded by young people and people of all ages too, but mainly by young people who have a stake in this game, who want to see the country move forward in the right direction for generations to come.
Exactly. I mean, these people have already put my friends in jail. People like my normal co-host in the morning, Derek Evans. He did 90 days. People like Brandon Strzok, Steve Bannon. Let's not forget him too. He did 4 months in jail over a congressional hearing. Right now our DOJ is sitting on 19 referrals for people doing literally the same thing, either not showing up or lying to Congress, and they won't do anything with it. Our side has to find their testicles and learn how to fight back. This isn't weaponizing justice when crimes have actually been committed. We have to have actual enforcement of the law, equal enforcement, because the Democrats are already telling us who they are. Who's this? I always forget this guy's name. This little Nazi that's running up in Maine, the Democrat that's running up there, the guy with the death's head tattoo on his chest. He's already out there talking about how once they're in office, they're going to get rid of the filibuster, which are these pussies in DC can't bring themselves to do right now, even though, again, they're telling us they're going to do it. They want to impeach 2 Supreme Court justices, he says. Well, I wonder which 2 that could possibly be. And they want to stack the Supreme Court. They will use the power to crush us once again. And it won't just be Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, Derek Evans, and all the other J6 defendants that they put in jail. It's going to be all of us. We're all on watch list. They will push through red flag laws. They're going to push through whatever else. They're really upset right now that the Supreme Court, is allowing conversion therapy again, struck down this law in Colorado. But they will weaponize the courts against us as quick as they can, and they will prosecute us. Make no mistake about it. They are very upset that they got smacked down in this last election. And right now, our side is very disheartened because we're not getting what we voted for. But we bet things better start changing soon, because if the Democrats do take power, it isn't going to just be impeaching Trump over and over again in the House. It's going to mean nothing else happens, nothing else gets done, and then we're set up for failure going into 2028. And that's what they want, because that's the only way they're going to get what they want in the long run. Because right now, if we could just get our act together, we could ensure that the left never wins again, because they're not having kids. And right now, the youth are becoming more and more conservative. They're busy transing their kids or just aborting them before they're ever born, and our side still is. So in 20 years, they're not going to be able to win dog catcher in Walla Walla, Washington, but we've got to get through the next few years to make that happen. And to do that, we need these legacy Republicans, the pickle-kissing, yellow-bellied losers in D.C., these undocumented Democrats. We need them to find their spines and start actually fighting, or we are in danger of losing this country.
Well, here's how it's going to work. Either they're going to find their spines and actually, get to work for the American people, or they're just going to get replaced. That's how it's going to happen, because young people are going to demand it. We're going to continue to build coalitions. And like I said, we'll burn the thing down and build it back up from the ashes and fight for this country and fix it, because we're not going to sit back and watch them ruin the future of America while they all pass on, and we then inherit a giant mess. That's not going to happen. And plus, too, for the people of current generations now and older generations who are watching the country get sold out from under them, who are not in the establishment but are in the voter base, who actually get fired up when they hear young people speak and want to do something about it, the future of the country.
No, any thoughts on this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, having some technical problems. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, absolutely. So you should have seen how many young people were inspired at CPAC just from Skylar. You should have seen the crew we were walking around with, a bunch of young men, young patriots who love their country. You would have thought we were a Roman legion marching, and we need to spread that wildfire, and we need to do it really fast.
Yep, that's spot on from Noah. And I want to add another thing too. This is like now my fifth or sixth CPAC. I think it's the sixth. And there was more random breakouts of prayer that happen at CPAC now than ever before. So I'm sick and tired of hearing people say too that you should not talk about God as much when you're running for office and when you're doing politics. That is so ridiculous. Government sits upon the shoulders of Jesus Christ, on God's shoulders, so that we can preach liberty to captives and free ourselves from the tyrants of this fallen world. God is the spearhead of that. God is not just working through a movement. God is about this entire movement, because with God, who has given us our liberty, we don't need government. We don't answer to government. We don't kneel to them. We kneel to God. That's it. We stand for the flag. We kneel for the cross. God has already given us our liberty, and government had better just only be there to defend that liberty from global oligarchs and tyrants. Otherwise, that government needs to be replaced by the American people. The Declaration of Independence talks about it. The United States Constitution talks about it. It says, we the people, in big bold letters at the top of our Constitution, for great reasons. So the American people need to understand that. It's time to start talking about God, politics, and social subjects in public again. You know, we're all sold this lie to never talk about politics, religion, or social subjects in public. But that's how this nation was founded. And because we didn't continue to talk about those things, that's how we got into this mess. It will only be solved by talking about those things, by keeping each other involved and informed at a local level, sharing information horizontally with people in your area, and then vertically throughout all the state chapter alliances, to keep each other involved and informed on what's happening in a place like, you know, if it could happen in Illinois, maybe it can happen in Texas, maybe it can happen in Massachusetts. What's the international influence coming into our country? What's coming out of Davos, where they have their backroom meetings and deals where they say that we're going to own nothing and be happy? I'm not interested in anything like that. And I know the American people aren't either. But the problem is 90% of it's an awareness issue, because you have Republicans who are not talking about these issues, because apparently we just don't want people involved and informed, which is absurd. We, the American people, are demanding different now, and we will not be quiet. We will take action and get the job done.
You know, the other big thing you guys had there at this last CPAC, and I wish I could have gone down there with you guys, but it was just too last minute notice when we had the opportunity to go. And unfortunately, my poor dog, who's laying on the floor right over here, I didn't have anybody to watch him. But the other big thing you guys had there was all these Iranians that turned up that happen to live. There's a huge group of Iranian dissidents that live there in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. A lot of great people. They understand what we're headed towards right now. They all fled tyranny to come here and live in freedom. Most of them have left Islam as well. There's a huge number of Christians that are amongst this group. You guys had Reza Pahlavi there to speak to, the son of the Crown Prince of Iran. I mean, this is, again, somebody that really understands what we're heading towards here. And people think it can't happen. But when we're on the cusp of it right now, it doesn't take that many changes to strip away our rights and turn us into a real dictatorship. Maybe it wouldn't be an Islamic theocratic dictatorship, but then again, we also have the Red Green Alliance, so who knows what direction they end up going. But they really, I wish they would have had a bigger focus on that and interviewed more of these people, talked to them about, you know, what they fled and the warning signs they see here. We've got the great Annie Cyrus. She's the other co-owner here at Ex America News. She obviously grew up under the tyranny there, and she understands it firsthand. That's why she decided to get, or one of the big reasons she decided to get active 11, 12, 13 years ago now. And that's because she's seeing what the tyranny she grew up under, seeing this begin to creep into our society. You also brought up, meeting places. You know, if it weren't for Elon Musk and buying X, the modern town hall would be completely gone. And that was their goal. Look at all the social media censorship. I mean, we're still dealing with this today. There's a reason, most of our broadcasts on X America News don't go up onto YouTube, and that's because we're constantly getting strikes for wrongthink. We do have to get our country back to a place where we do allow people to freely express their ideas without demonetizing them, taking them off, or putting them in digital ghettos, echo chambers. This is, the left cannot compete in the realm of free ideas in the free market where people can actually debate things, because their ideas, they always get crushed. It's upside down, backwards thinking that only works under totalitarian control. And even then, it doesn't exactly work well. But we've got to get back to a point where we can fight back, and we are also unified as Americans. We have to have a common goal going forward. I'm glad that, that Trump is also reinvigorating the space program, because we need to have things that the country can get behind and cheer, and that can act as unifying factors again, because the left has just gone all in on division. But right now it's working, especially as we continue to have these enclaves of illegal aliens in here disrupting our cities and destroying our states, like you guys have in Illinois and other places.
Not to mention, too, that if we don't innovate and advance, I can tell you who will. The Chinese Communist Party will. Because they're not even worried about human rights violations. They will murder their own people just to advance the interests of the Chinese Communist Party. They largely already do it just through organ harvesting, too, which we've continued to expose and network on. And I'll say this, too, at CPAC, ask anybody who has fled Cambodia or Vietnam or Korea, and ask them about how they feel about communism and whether or not they think that that could happen here in the United States. The American people need to wake up and realize that just because you were given this great freedom here in this country, you are not exempt from losing this nation, the greatest nation on earth, to communism and global totalitarianism. It is right here on our doorstep. It's actually already in here in our country. We've been infiltrated. It's happened for a long time through universities and unions and corrupt politicians and selling access to government officials and our patent rights and our patent owners and our technology, our great geniuses being ripped off. All this is happening in our country, including our elections now being hijacked as well, through the voter fraud, which now we continue to expose because it all exists. These are all principles of communism. That's why they want to remove God from government. That's why they want to destroy the nuclear family. They believe that nothing is ever created other than by destruction, because it's all about communist dystopia through the promise of utopia, which we know is never going to exist because we live in a fallen world, which is why it's so important to be a spiritual person and understand that. So, we could just continue to go off about all these topics, which is why it's so important, yes, the digital town hall, but then also the physical town hall, too, which is why you have to get involved and informed at the grassroots level. You're not going to necessarily be the person who's going to run for office or deliver powerful speeches, and that's okay. Maybe some of you will. But what you do have a duty and obligation to do to your fellow countrymen, to your fellow patriots, your fellow disciples, is to keep each other involved and informed on the issues that are happening right now. Otherwise, you will lose the country to communism. The enemy to communism and to wickedness is light, it is love, it is information, it is morality, and it is action. So it's time to organize, empower, take action. God is the answer. God is the answer to wickedness and the fallen world.
Well said. And you're exactly right. And this is why they don't want us moving forward. They don't want people speaking or meeting in person. I really think that's one of the main reasons they went after all the J6ers as hard as they did, is because they don't want the right rising up. They don't want us showing up at protests. They don't want us networking in the real world and fighting for this change at the local level. That's part of the problem is, how do you have leftists on city councils, filling city councils, even in red areas? And it's because we're not getting out, we're not fighting. More of us do need to get involved. All great things require sacrifice. And for all of you out there watching or listening right now, that means you too. Being a keyboard warrior is not enough. You have to get out and you have to do things in the real world. Unless you're a paraplegic whatever and you can't leave your house, there's really no excuse. I know not everybody can afford financial contributions, but each of us can give up a day off. Let's say it's your Saturday twice a month, find somebody or a cause to support and phone bank. Go knock on doors, do other things, meet with other like-minded people in your area. There's groups all over the country to do that, and find out what you can do to be most effective in your local area, and then also focus nationally. Find candidates that are running. If you're fortunate to live somewhere like I do, where I do have a good representative, then find somebody nearby. Maybe find another campaign, somebody that could get, with a little help, could get across the finish line. Phone bank for them. Most of these places you can do it remotely now from your own house. If you've got a laptop or even a cell phone, they have apps where you can make calls or help them get out the vote, help them raise donations, whatever it is they need to win. But there's something each of us can do. But the problem is right now we're all talk and we're not enough action, myself included. There's more that I could do, I'm sure, if I gave up a little bit more of my free time. But there's a lot of us that do nothing. That Saturday at the pool, that might be nice right now, but if 2 years from now the country's in absolute destruction and we're on the verge of a civil war, which honestly we're not that far off from already, then that pool Saturday, that won't be really worth it now, will it? Whereas if we fight right now and we fight to win from now till November, we can set the tone. If we can reshape Congress in a positive way, if the DOJ can get their act together and start arresting some people and prosecuting some people, that would certainly go a long way to help. But if we can maintain Congress, get some more fighters in there, people like you, we can turn things around. And but the bottom line is we are going to need help from the Trump administration too. They've got to get their act together too and start actually prosecuting these people. There have to be consequences, whether it's all the Somali fraud up in Minnesota, all the fraud that they're starting to uncover in California, what's going on here in Ohio or Maine or Tennessee or wherever else. I just saw one this morning. We've got more fraud in Washington State now. Another, I think it was 37 million so far. There have to be consequences for that. People have to see that it isn't all for nothing. And because as long as that continues, we can't save the country anyway. But it's going to take effort from all of us.
You're right. I was just going to cut in two real quick and just say you hit the nail right on the head when you said sacrifice. If you could describe America in one word, that word is sacrifice. You got to be willing to do your part. You got to be willing to either speak up and stand up and run for office, or deliver a motivational speech and get people fired up, keep each other involved and informed, or be willing to volunteer, or heck, be willing to donate too. Funding is such a big issue right now too, because the establishment wants to starve guys like me out and then Noah out as we build these coalitions. Because they know that we need the resources. We're not self-made multi-millionaires or billionaires here, so we need funding. So even as the $5, $10, whatever the case is, if you know somebody, pass the information along, share the information. We need your help. We need your support so that we can keep going and keep fighting. Otherwise, we can't continue to do it. But we have to fight. So you guys stand by our side, fight with us, support us. Even when we're not running for office, like right now. Help us with the funding. Help us contribute. We're a 501c3. It's tax deductible. We have a 501c4. We can fight. We can have the legislation. Go to our website. It's TUSPS.org. We need you guys. We're willing to do the work. We just need you to stand by our side. Be a volunteer. Start a chapter. Help finance us. All of it. And we will show more valuation than you could even believe for this country.
Well said. Now, we are almost out of time. So, Noah, I'm going to kick it over to you. Any words of wisdom you want to leave the audience with here?
Guys, just follow by example. And I'll tell you guys this, if especially for all of our CPAC guys and people that go to AmFest and all these places, you guys are the voters that pay the most attention. It is your job to sound the alarm. It is your job to tell the people, look, Republicans think that the ship's sinking. We're already at the bottom of the ocean floor. All right, the sharks are circling. So, guys, just get the word out. Go volunteer, not a door knock. If you don't want to do that, have a conversation with somebody. Bring friends to vote. Make group chats. Share everything you can on social media in every single way. If you guys want lower taxes, a more affordable country, a more moral country, you got to fight for it. Without sacrifice, there can be no victory.
Well said. And before I hand it back over to you, Skylar, I just want to show example one again real quick. This is just in the last 48 hours. These are the other corruption on the left, and that's all the judges. So here we go. Federal judge orders Trump administration to halt construction on privately funded White House ballroom. Obama judge orders Trump to restore legal status of hundreds of thousands of migrants who entered the U.S. through Biden-era cell phone app. That's the CBP One app. We also have another judge jumping in, getting involved. Where was that other story? Sorry, guys, give me 1 second here. Oh, and they're already talking about this other executive order having a DHS verify citizenship of voters. Obama judge blocks Trump executive order aimed at ending federal funding for NPR PBS. Oh, and then one of the Somali fraudsters that ripped off millions of dollars, he's only getting 1 year in jail. He'll be out in a few weeks, by the way. But, you know, if we want to change these things, we need to find our testicles. Congress could impeach and remove every single one of these judges. And because they are clearly abusing their power. In a lot of these cases, they are overstepping even their legal authority. But again, we have no testicles, so we can't press them on it or make them do anything. So Skylar, again, give your website one more time, how people can help there, and any words of wisdom that you want to leave the Behind Enemy Lines audience with this evening.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. If you want to support our efforts now outside of running for office and get involved and informed in your area and help us fight for the future of America, it's the United States Patriot Society. Our website is TUSPS.org. Again, that's TUSPS.org. You can find us on all the social media platforms, as well as myself, Skylar Dunsing. You can find me on all the social media platforms. Network with us, be involved, be informed. And remember this last tidbit of information here. If you sit back and do nothing, we will lose this country. It will guarantee our loss of the greatest nation on earth. But if you do something and you organize and you keep each other involved and informed, you future, you guarantee yourself a chance. What do you want? Do you want to lose, or do you want to give yourself a chance? There is strength in numbers. Join us, stand with us, and fight for the future of America and the nation for the next 250 years to come.
Well said. And yes, if you want to, sorry, you're cutting in and out. But well said. And yes, if you want to preserve our liberty, preserve our Constitution, and preserve our nation, it's going to require effort from everybody out there right now, listening or watching. You are going to have to get involved. This isn't a game anymore. This isn't like a sport. This is win or lose for the fate of our nation. And I think that's worth preserving. So, Skylar, Noah, thank you for joining us tonight here on Behind Enemy Lines. To our audience, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. We'll be back on Thursday with even more.